looks like this stream was deleted on Facebook. Try creating a new stream or just remove this destination from the stream.
Yeah, remove the destination. Because I can
Peace.
Jag minns ju den tid du gav mig life bila yo. Nu vill jag kunna ge tillbaka allt jag inte kunna ge förut. Det finns ingen annan där som kan stå här by my side, oh why. Sättet du rör på det får mig att dö för dig baby. För de här yardis, de vill ju bara dra ner oss. Men du är fett och vanlig. Och det jag lägger all min tid och jag vill ha det. Du får mig känna safety. Jag kan nog leda baby. Och jag kommer aldrig ändra mig. Aldrig.
Yo, what's up, man?
What's up?
The family is back. Welcome back to Gullah House Show.
Grand Rising, everybody. Grand Rising, man. How y'all doing?
Hey, bye-bye, Kemoh. Hey, man, I ain't gonna lie. Y'all look cold over there, man. What's going on?
It is cold, man. It's 0 here. I had to go outside this morning and sweep the steps, knock snow off the car. It's cold, man. They ain't used to this kind of snow down here in the Berg, you know. And it's as far as traffic goes, a lot of people been off the road, but in other places you see people sliding in the ditches and all that kind of thing. And it's icy out there. So I would say if you got some property or something, you know, you need to go outside and sweep your steps off and sweep your sidewalk off because you don't want nobody to fall on your property and you know.
Yeah, what y'all got going on in the city, we ain't got that out here, man. Like we got a lot of snow, but all that sweeping steps and sweeping paves and all that, nah, man, I'm loving it. I'm loving the snow. I'm hiking in it, I'm playing in it, having snowball fights in it. Like, I love it.
No. Well, you still a young man, Dom. You're supposed to go outside and play in the snow. Not too much cold. Man. Not too much cold for my bones.
I understand that.
Yeah, man.
You took your little brother and sister out there?
Oh yeah, we're gonna have another snowball fight. I'm gonna get them back this year. They ain't gonna ambush me.
Okay.
Man, snow in South Carolina.
Yeah, man. It's been snowing in South Carolina for like every year for the last four years? Something like that.
It's not just South Carolina right now, man. It's up and down the whole eastern seaboard.
Yeah.
Other places is getting hit much harder than South Carolina. Even up in Columbia, I just spoke to my son. He's out there cleaning off his car, and well, you know these young boys, they love their car, so he want to make sure his joint can start up.
Yeah, man. So what's been going on? You know, it's been a few months since we came out, and you know, with a new show. I know definitely some people they want to see. You know, what we've been up to, what's been going on, what's been the highlight since we've been live. Since I believe what last show was like August.
Last show? August or early September.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, when did we do the ceremony? I know we did the ceremony, the libation ceremony.
October.
Okay.
Yeah.
October.
That was the one thing we did. You know, the holidays. People was it was a lot of cultural events going on through the holidays here. There was even some free events down at the IAM International African American Museum. They did a couple of free events. They just had one maybe about a week or so ago. But you know, and now for sure, you know, it's Black History Month. You know, February. I mean, for us, it's every day, but for official purposes, well, not official, but it's Black History Month, the beginning of Black History Month. We celebrate it every day, but you know,
shout out to Carter G. Woodson.
Get on the bandwagon.
Shout out to Carter G.
That's
Woodson.
right. Yeah, shout out to him. And then next Saturday, I'll be at the Bull Swamp Black History Month celebration
wow.
You know, and I know that that's coming up, and I know there's going to be a few events at the conference center. So and up on the campus. Shout out to the Bulldogs. You know, they just became
yes sir, national
they
champs.
they the champs, and I was out there to that parade, and that was nice. It was good to see the old school coaches like Willie Jeffries and Buddy Pugh and all the old timers was out there. So that was nice. We got some kinfolk that play in the band, play with the marching 101. So that was good to see. That was a good thing to see.
That sounds like fire, man. You know, since the last time we talked to the people, man, we did quite a few things. One of the things I know is I launched my book. Also,
talk about
we
it.
did our first annual Orangeburg landing ancestral remembrance celebration as well, ceremony, something that was very spiritual but very historical, right on time. Man, y'all did a great job out there. You know, me being in Africa, watching y'all put in the work, it be having me so excited because, you know, it just reinforces that I don't got to be there. My cousins over there, they going to do the work. It's powerful like that. It's powerful in that kind of way. You know what I mean? But to see y'all go out there and honor the ancestors, you know, with the team, with the community, definitely a beautiful thing, man. We're gonna do that every year. We're gonna do it every year.
I make it my business since the ceremony. I have made it my business to go by the landing every now and then and pour a libation and make a little offering to the river. And another thing I've been doing, I've been visiting the grave sites of our local ancestors here. And shout out to keepers of the culture, you know, Dunny and Olahomi.
Yeah, man.
They put the ceremony together. They did their
thing. Yeah, they did.
They did their thing with it, and that was great, man. That was great. I've been doing my little ancestral work here in the house, you know, because you know, still digging into the lineage, still digging into the ancestry, still repping the Gullah culture. You know, we do that every day.
Yeah. Same here, man. You know me, always in the books, always reading academic journals, always in the archives, man.
What you got there, Don? What you got there?
Oh boy, I got African Americans of Orangeburg County.
Okay.
I got Facts and Legends of Orangeburg County.
Okay, local history.
I got
That's
people of Orangeburg County.
Okay.
That's right.
Chief. Yeah, Chief, I was able to get your book into the Orangeburg County Library system.
Yeah, man. Shout out to you. For sure.
Right now, I'm reading Jim Clyburn's book about the first 8 Black representatives to come into the legislature, the government. So I'm reading that.
Oh, wow.
Right now. Jim Clyburn's book, and you know that's
is this during the Reconstruction era, or
it's during the
Reconstruction era. I know you're talking about.
He covers the whole state. He covers the Lowcountry. He covers Sumter. He covers the Midlands. It's really, the book is really about the first 8 brothers to go into Congress. So I'm enjoying that right now. Because you know, I'm familiar with the area and I'm familiar with a lot of the people that he talks about in the book.
Yeah, man. It's dope, man, because you know we always talk loosely about the strength of our ancestors and the struggles of our people, but when you actually can pick up the narrative written out for you by someone who's actually in that field, man, it's no better source of education. So, yeah, man.
There you go.
So you gotta get out and talk to the people, man.
Got to, ain't no doubt about it. So for those out there who know, last March, we started and kicked off with the first Orangeburg Gullah Geechee Heritage Festival. It was a great success, and we're bringing it back. We'll be back March 28th, same place, same time, same people, and we'll have another great event. So I want to show you the flyer, the official flyer for this year. You know, the theme for this year is, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was connecting at the roots.
The Gullah Diaspora, reconnecting our roots.
That's right. That's right. So the whole concept is to shift the narrative of Gullah Geechee from something that's isolated and only happens in certain places into being a lived culture and heritage expression of people far and beyond what is typically recognized as the homeland of the Gullah Geechee people, and correctly so. The Lowcountry, the Sea Islands, and you know, inland somewhat. We say at least until you reach the fall line, including us, Orangeburg, Adisto Geechees. So of course, we're putting on for the family. Y'all come on out there. We're gonna have some great entertainment out there. We got some great speakers, presenters gonna be out there. Dr. Curry gonna be out there. From what I'm hearing, Professor Damon Fordham is gonna be out there.
Yes.
We gotta highlight him, but definitely want to run Baba Amin back, man. You know he always got a home down there in Orangeburg. I seen he was in Calf just yesterday or the day before. So we gotta continue to reach out to them too. The family right there in that Midlands area. We calling you all out to come celebrate with us in Orangeburg at the Cosmic Green Spot on March 28th, 2026. Baba Kemoh, you got anything people can look forward to?
Oh man, yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to the festival, man. Like you just said, I know Baba Amin was supposed to have been in town this weekend, but because of the storm and everything, a lot of things got shut down. But I'm looking forward to the festival, man. People have reached out to me. Shout out to my cousin Jamari, you know, and some of my other kinfolk, you know, they want to be out there. Shout out to Omari Fox, another cousin of mine that's supposed to. He was a prior guest on our show, and like you just said, you know, we always got room for Dr. Fordham and Dr. Curry and Brother O'Brien, and you know, even the sisters. Keepers of the Culture, Dunny, Olaomi, Sister Myra down there. You know, I think Sister Myra might be having another book or something come on. I'm not sure. I know she's been very busy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, she's been very busy, man.
She's been.
I think a lot of people who missed us last year, man, they definitely want to be there this year. I see a lot of people saying, I ain't missing this year. That's what I'm getting from the social media feedback. So,
I'm getting the same thing. I'm getting that as well. People are looking forward to it. You know, they're hitting me up already. What can we do to help y'all out, Baba? I said, well,
man.
Sure.
Hey, Kemoh, you know what? Shout out to cousin Jamari as well. You just brought him up, Jamari Evans. He made a donation to the festival, man. I just want to shout people out who really want to lend a hand and understand that we're not doing this with grants. We're doing this with love. We're doing this with unity. It's not a grant hustle. Ain't no secret money nowhere. No one's being paid. We all volunteering our services. And at the end of the day, it's beautiful when our people can put their hands together and make it happen. So definitely shout out to cousin Jamari Evans for, you know, donating what he did. No donation is too small. You can always get in contact with Baba Kemoh or any of us. We can direct you to where you need to go in order to make a contribution.
This event is for us, man. It's about bringing the culture. It's about bringing tradition, the culture. It's about venerating our ancestors. It's about, you know, the community coming together and all that, man. I'm excited. My heart is full whenever we talk about this because I know it's going to be great, man. And I know more people will show up than last year. You know, shout out to Sister Tamara for providing the spot for us to be able to do this, the Cosmic Green Spot. So
man.
Come on out, y'all. Come on out. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna venerate.
That's right.
We're gonna pour libations, and we're gonna honor our ancestors.
That's right. That's right. And we're gonna learn as well. We're gonna educate.
Absolutely. We're gonna spread the word out there. It's all about not just education, but entertainment. We say edutainment in the movement.
Edutainment, yeah.
You know, you can look forward to a lot of that.
Ain't that the word that KRS-One created back in the day?
Yes, sir. That's a hip
edutainment. The teacher, that's what they used to call him. But that was his word, edutainment.
So also I'm going to shamelessly promote my book before we get into the meats of this conversation. Just let people know it's out there. And it's called The Gullah Sovereignty, African Communalism and the Mandane Kafu Model. Very, very decent book, if I must say so myself. Again, shout out to Baba Kemoh for getting it in the Orangeburg library system, the first library system it has ever been added to, but actually working now to try to get into some bookstores and possibly some other local libraries as well. Get the information out there. A lot of times people don't know, and you know, we're not doing our due diligence to get the information out there. So I just try to do my due diligence, and I appreciate the support. Now, this book here deals with the question of sovereignty for Gullah people, and also presents a traditional Manding or Mandinka model of community building as a way for us to use as Gullah Geechee people in the 21st century as we continue to exercise that sovereignty, which is cultural sovereignty, lineage sovereignty, sovereignty over our spirituality. We have a right to self-determination and to define ourselves for ourselves and represent ourselves for ourselves, tell our own stories. And so this was one of my contributions to that. Y'all go ahead out there and get that if you can. It's available on many different sources. And hold on real quick. I think I have a banner to that effect going across the bottom of the screen now. So y'all go ahead and check that out. With no further ado, it's also available in soft and paperback as well. Soft copy, also Amazon, and whatnot. So, all right, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this conversation. So today, the purpose of this is we're going to talk about Gullahspora, which of course is a word, a concept, a term that I coined it to create this space in our imaginations to include all of the lineages when we talk about Gullah Geechee. That when we talk about Gullah Geechee, we're not just talking about the lineages that were fortunate enough to never be displaced, but that we're talking about the lineages over the centuries that have moved around the world, even creating new places and new populations for centuries. So we want to have a real in-depth conversation, an academic conversation, a conversation that our people, our listeners can watch and listen and then share it, and it be credible and non-contested, right? Uncontestable. So it's all about the Gullahspora. The Gullahspora is the diaspora of the Gullah Geechee community, the Gullah Geechee people. At the foundation of this concept is, of course, what is a Gullah Geechee? When does the Gullah Geechee come about? Because only from that would you get a diaspora. You have to have the people first to get the diaspora. And so for us in the Gonona, we identify the origins of the Gullah Geechee population and culture evolving simultaneously with the evolution and history of South Carolina, starting with 1670 founding of Charleston, which of course is when the first Africans would have been taken there under British colonial rule, which facilitated the process that became Gullah Geechee culture and what we're talking about here today. So 1670 to about 1770. Why I say 1770? Because by 1770, Britain and the American revolutionaries were already at loggerheads. They were going through their thing, but those 100 years of generations in South Carolina was already a black majority and was already producing the primary cash crop for the national economy already before there was a United States of America. So we stopped at 1770 because our ethnogenesis was complete before there was a United States of America. We say that because during the American Revolution, there was people who was evacuated from the United States of America. And I think that's where we're going to start at. We're going to start around that period right there and talk about that, all right? So before we get into it, I'll just throw this on the screen real quick. One, we're going to talk about the Maroonage to Florida, leading to the Gullahspora in Florida, Cuba, Virgin Islands, Oklahoma, Texas, and Mexico. I'll take it first and then I'll pass it along. Of course, Maroonage is a form of flight within the history of this narrative is Africans fleeing enslavement from then originally the colonies of Carolina and Georgia into what was then Spanish Florida, where Africans fleeing slavery to the north would be given asylum as long as they would become Catholics and they would be able to settle freely. And that's exactly what happened. So this was going on way back in the early 1700s, late 1600s, when Spanish was at odds with the British, and they actually was contesting each other over the territory that we call South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida today, right? And so that's the narrative. Our people were in the process of formation. You take from 1774, and we're talking about the Gullah War #1 and Gullah War #2. We're talking about the massive flight from slavery into Florida during that time, and the fact that these people, who were Gullah Geechee people, carried their culture, they carried their lineage, they carried everything that they had in the Carolinas or in Georgia with them to these new locations. They carried it to Florida. Of course, we know about Florida, but a lot of us don't know about Cuba. Many of the people who fled originally to the Spanish, when the Spanish evacuated, they went to Cuba, and they took a lot of Gullah Geechee people with them to Cuba. Later on, of course, during the Gullah Wars, you had flight into the Virgin Islands, and then as a consequence of being forcibly removed, those lineages were also scattered to Oklahoma, and from there they tried to re-enslave those Africans, and those Africans rebelled and ended up in Texas and in Mexico, and those Africans were all Gullahs, and we consider them the first wing of the Gullahspora. Don, what you got to say about that, brother? Anything to add?
All of that, what you said just now, is very true. Okay, all that you were saying is very much true. Of course, during the final years of the American Revolution, you had enslaved people who had sided with the loyalists, who fled with their slave masters to other islands, Jamaica, Bahamas, the Virgin Islands, and from my understanding, the Turks and Caicos. Of course, that led to that. Those lineages intertwined with possibly even family members who they were related to back when they were in Africa. Of course, that led to figures like George Lau, David George, and others who were ministers from South Carolina and Georgia and other areas, and they end up setting up churches there, and also gaining a congregation of their fellow enslaved and Caribbean borns on the island.
Absolutely. That's a major story. Baba Kemoh, anything to add to the early Maroonage in Florida?
Well, yeah, but earlier, Chief, you mentioned the 1700s, and I always like to throw things to the bird because that's when they started the Allied families, what they call the Allied families of Orangeburg County. That's when they first started bringing our ancestors into this area, which was around 1735, 1740 was when they began to bring began to bring captives up from the Lowcountry up the Ancestral River into Orangeburg County. That was the beginning for our particular ancestors, ancestors. And also, when you talk about going down into Florida, that's where they first started running down to. They didn't go up north first; they headed down south first towards Florida and Texas, and then for all these people that like to say that nowadays you always hear a lot about Native Americans and this and that. But when you start to talk about Florida, you have to mention the Black Seminoles. And, we had a good relationship with them. We fought with them. And then when you talk about the Seminoles, then you have to bring up Fort Mose in Florida down there, which was in St. Augustine, Florida, which is I think St. Augustine was probably one of the oldest Black cities in America, in the U.S. And then also you had a big Maroon community at the Negro Fort, and I think you used to talk about that, Chief. You know, the Negro Fort, that was a massive community, and then but it was destroyed in 1816. But it was around for a long time. But that's when we first started to fight back against this system.
Yeah, absolutely, Baba. So, I think Dom kind of touched on where we're going with it next. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it up on the screen. We're talking about the post-Revolutionary War and the War of 1812 evacuations. Our people went to Jamaica, Canada, Sierra Leone, and the UK, and other places during this particular evacuation period. So, just to give a little background before we chop it up, you know, the post Revolutionary War evacuations is very, very key because of the simple fact that there were certain people who was loyal to the British, white and black. The black loyalists were taken to Nova Scotia, but the white loyalists, many of them were taken to Nova Scotia as well, but others went down into the Caribbean to other British colonies. They went right on down there and ended up in Jamaica and whatnot. So from those who went to Canada and those who went to Jamaica, some of the ones who went to Canada ended up becoming the founding group of Sierra Leone, and then there was also people who ended up going to the UK at this time. So this is the second wave of Gullahspora. Dom, go ahead, Dom.
But yeah, all that you said just now is true. And well, let me get my thoughts together. But yeah, by them fleeing there, of course, they're taking aspects of the culture that they already had created in South Carolina and Georgia and even Florida, and they're combining it with the culture that's being formed there in those specific Caribbean islands, of course. That's like one sister. Now, I'm not going to call her name. She's from the Bahamas. And for the last, 4 years, me and her chopped it up. And me and her always recognized the historical and cultural connections that we share with each other, of course. And, of course, she's able to trace her lineage personally to Afro-Seminole that came from Florida and settled on, I believe, if not Cat Island, Exuma Island. I might be mispronouncing it, in the Bahamas. And she's also able to talk about the certain foods and traditions that were brought over. The idea that they eat cornbread, of course, that was brought over. The different hunting strategies and beliefs and burial practices, of course.
Hey, well, let me jump in here a minute. And I will tell y'all, since everybody is snowed in the last couple of days, and I don't know what the weather is over there, Chief, but yesterday I was looking at this movie called The Book of Negroes.
Yeah.
Which will tell you, you know, how the young lady, how she was captured in Africa. She came to South Carolina, and she went up to Canada. She was part of the Black Loyalists and all of that. And when you start talking about 1812, that's significant to me because that's when my great-great-grandfather was born and everything. So I always pay attention to that era. And then also, it spread it out. Also, when you talking about 1812, you coming up north and all, you know, towards New Jersey and places like that. And then there was one guy, I think his name was Colonel Ty, I believe.
Colonel Ty, yeah.
He was the guerrilla fighter up there in New Jersey, and you know. But like I said, it was part of that movie. The Book of Negroes is a good film to look at if you want to talk about this era, because like I said, it covers everything from capture in Africa up to the loyalists, up to some people, up to when certain people was going back to Liberia and Sierra Leone. You know, they made it back. So
I have it.
That was what her life was all about. You know, she was trying to get back home, even though she was captured and she went through all kind of hell dealing with Jewish merchants and everything. It's a very good movie. I liked it. It's on Netflix now.
Yeah, I watched it when it first came on BET almost 12 years ago. And the sister, if any of you remember Lovecraft Country, the one who played the sister, I forgot her name, Ajamu Wells or something like that. She plays Amanita.
Yeah.
Enslaved in South Carolina, and Cuba Gooding Jr. plays this Caribbean brother, and also that kind of like adds a little bit of a, how can I say, the context to it. Like you had an idea that you had a Caribbean brother enslaved wherever he was in the Caribbean and being also enslaved in the United States at that time, or what was colonial.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Dominique. I think that's the first time somebody in that movie mentioned the name Samba.
Samba, yeah.
And Samba would be your ancestor.
And she said, and when they asked her, she said she taught Gullah, she taught English.
Yeah.
She said she taught Gullah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just a little local connection we have with that. Man.
Yeah.
You know, makes your heart feel good when you hear some kinfolk mentioned in the movie.
Yeah, that early scene in the movie where they were saying, remember my name, and she said Samba, such and such, such and such. She had to repeat every name that she heard from her fellow enslavement.
You know who pointed that out to me was our cousin Wayne Xavier Young. I think Wayne. He was the first one to point that out to me, that Samba's name was mentioned in the movie.
Yeah, man. So I think the third topic of discussion is this: Louisiana Purchase and Westward expansion, forced migration of enslaved Gullahs. Dom, you like to really touch on this. I'll give you the opportunity to really break through that comment, right? This subject right here.
Yeah, these last few months, particularly in the month of November, which was quote unquote last year, I was digging heavily into the runaway slave advertisements, and I was looking all over the South, and particularly Louisiana, because of course we know that you had enslaved people from the Lowcountry and Sea Island areas of South Carolina, including South Carolina in general, particularly those spaces that were sold out that way into places like Texas, Mississippi, and particularly Louisiana. And so I found runaway advertisements that were listing the places of birth, or saying like this person speaks a Lowcountry brogue from South Carolina, or speaks the Lowcountry dialect of the Lowcountry South Carolina Negroes. So of course I became more and more curious, and when I made that post, and go back and look for my post, it was back in November, someone from Louisiana, who's possibly a distant family member of mine on the Blake side of my lineage, reached out to me and was saying like, yeah, I not only do I descend from the Blake lineage as well, but the Gullah that was spoken mixed with the quote unquote Louisiana Creole. And this is coming from the words of my family member, of course. He was saying that the elder ones in his family, like they grew up speaking Creole, but when they got on the phone and spoke to each other, it would be like a mixture. It would switch between the Creole and the Gullah. And it was a
dialect.
Okay. Let me jump in here.
Dialect. There you go. And you can chime in as well, because you know, family being sold out to Texas or whatever.
Let me jump in here a minute. We have an award-winning relative, a cousin.
Mm-hmm.
She reached out to me some months ago, and she reached out to me out of the blue. She's wrote several books. She's well known. Her name is Bernice Bennett. She's from Louisiana. And she had no idea that she had this many relatives in South Carolina until she connected with me. And not to get off the subject, but I matched with her. I matched with her whole immediate family, her children, her sisters, and even her first cousin. But until we met, like I said, she had no idea that she had this many relatives in the South Carolina, Lawrenceburg, 96 district, Bamberg area. She has a lot of kinfolk here, and it was a shock to us. And matter of fact, she just sent me something yesterday of another relative that she's connected to. But before we connected, her ancestor or whatever had to have been part of a forced migration.
Mm-hmm.
How did they end up in Louisiana? You know? And she had no idea. I mean, she had no idea she had people here. And I believe also, Chief, as far as you go, your people, your branch of the family went to Texas, I believe, through the
they went to they left Orangeburg. They left Orangeburg. Some of them went to Alabama. Others went to Mississippi, and then from Mississippi they went over to some went to Louisiana. Others went over to Texas. But the main group went to Texas, and there's like a clear path. There's fully documented, like the year that they went, the circumstances. You know, one slave owner died and left 1/3 of his Negro properties to his brother in Texas, and poop, 1/3 of the family ended up over there. So it was actually documented. And the good thing about what the discussion we're having is that this is a forced migration that happened in the United States of America, that happened, you know, with the federal government giving land incentives to those who were migrating with us, right?
That's right.
And so when we're talking about westward expansion, you got to remember that a lot of the people who went down and was fighting the Gullahs in Florida was militias and state military from Georgia and South Carolina in the first place, right? And then on top of that, once they finally quelled the rebellions in Florida, the next thing is to move westward.
That's right.
And so it's people from Georgia and South Carolina who primarily sparked off that migration westward. And so you'll find that some of the earliest pioneer settlers of westward expansion also came from Orangeburg District, Charleston District, because the cotton boom meant that they needed more land and more hands, more land and more hands, more land and more hands, and that expanded westward. Yeah, man.
Yeah, they took us with them when they started going out west. They took us with them into Georgia, to Alabama, to Louisiana. A lot of people don't realize that the Berg was a hub. You know, they were selling people from this area all over out west, and they was
breeding and selling.
Yeah, breeding. They was doing everything they could, man. It was a business, man. It was a whole network.
Yeah,
whole network. These people were connected, and they were connected. And I'm just realizing now. Even I saw something recently. They used to go up north to places like New Hampshire and Rhode Island and bring captives in from there because they didn't want to pay South Carolina taxes. That was a way to avoid paying the taxes here. So they would smuggle you in, and then when they smuggle you in, you know, they might send you anywhere. You know, somebody get you, somebody sell your child, your wife, your cousin, your uncle, whatever. You was gone. And I think that is what happened with Bernice, because there's no doubt that we're related, because we is too many cousins that I recognize that's matching up with Dom, it's matching up with you, that's matching up with me. We're all connected. What did they used to say? 6 degrees of separation or something like that. And I see more and more. The more I study, the more I dig, the more I see how we all are interconnected.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
That's why you have cousins popping up from everywhere.
That's right. That's right. And just to throw it back in there, man. That's why this is so important. Connecting the roots. Connecting the roots. We're going to be emphasizing heavily on genealogy this year, and I know Baba Kemoh is going to be giving some insight on how to trace them roots, how to get reconnected. But the next topic is pre and post emancipation Liberia exodus, and then real quick, the last one will be 20th century great migrations and 21st century reverse migration. All right, so let's go on for pre and post emancipation Liberia exodus. I don't think we really have too much conversation about this. I was just going to say primarily that after emancipation, there was a movement in South Carolina that resulted in a shipping line being created and ultimately an exodus being made of people largely from South Carolina to Liberia. They left on the ship Azure, and directly in response to the Tilden-Hayes Agreement, which meant that the federal troops were now pulling out of the South, and Africans were going to be faced with the terrorism of the former slave masters without any protection. So one of the things that people said, well, let's go to Liberia. We have our own country. That was one of the emancipation movements that jumped off after one of the Exodus movements that jumped off after the emancipation. I'm sorry. So not to really give too much talk there, but it really was South Carolina people who really drove that. And one of the main families was the Tobert family of Liberia. If you remember, they had a president named Tobert, President Tobert. He was overthrown in 1980, but he was known to be the most Pan-Africanist leader from that era. And he also was the grandchild of someone who left on the Azore in 1878 after emancipation from Charleston to Liberia. That's very, very important. We transfer knowledge, skills, all kind of culture throughout that process with Liberia, with Sierra Leone. And a lot of the people from America, a lot of the Black Americans who were involved were largely people who also happened to come from the Gullah Geechee community lineage. Yeah, so I want to move forward to the last one for the sake of time so we really can chop it up. I think this one is really like a real big one to really talk about, especially being that I know myself and Kemoh, we're results of this 21st century, this 20th century Great Migration, and you're actually one among many who have made the reverse migration back to the South. And so I want to also emphasize that this is also the Gullahspora. Those people who migrated north, those Bumpy Johnsons and them, their children up north is still Gullahspora.
For sure.
That's right.
If they want to come back, they welcome. So let's talk about that real quick, y'all, before we get out of here. But yeah, man, good discussion.
Okay, I take it down. Well, for me, y'all, it was my parents' generation that I know personally that went up north. You know, they migrated up north because they were looking for better jobs. My mother was a teacher here in South Carolina, but she couldn't find work, so we migrated to up north in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s. That's the Great Migration to me because I was a part of it. I was a part of jumping on them Greyhound buses, them Trailway buses, you know, going up north to 42nd Street. I was a part. I remember, I don't know if you know, Dom, there used to be a train station in Denmark.
I heard of
where people, we would always go to Denmark to pick up kinfolk that were coming back home to visit.
That's right.
That was the thing for me. My thing was going up I-95, stopping at south of the border. You know what south of the border is? The North Carolina border. That was a major stop. That was a major stop. And just I'm gonna just say one more thing. Right now, with where the new library is here, that was the bus stop. That's where people were getting off the buses, off the trailways, loaded down with suitcases and fried chicken and biscuits and playing spades on the bus. I did all that coming up. I remember growing up in Brooklyn, people from here, from Charleston, they were all in Brooklyn. They were doing their thing. The women became nurses. The men got them good city jobs and all that. It was a big thing. But now, and this is gonna be my last point. Now you see people coming back home. You know, the ones whose parents went up north, like me. I done came back to Orangeburg, came back down south. So I reversed the migration, and a lot of people are doing that now because, believe it or not, South Carolina is one of the fastest growing states right now. I just heard that on the news the other day. So a lot of people are coming back home. A lot of African Americans are coming back home, and when they come back home, they want to know who their people are. They want to know what churches they belong to and this type of thing. They want to know who grandma and granddaddy was. And that's where we come in. We in a good position right now to tell these people to bring the culture back, to relive the culture and bring the tradition. We're in a good spot right now.
And we connect with the land if they are a family that had owned land, of course, which is land is not just wealth, land is also heritage. Land serves many purposes. While others are scrambling and struggling to find this, that, and the third, if you have land and if it's not overly polluted and you got your own plot, you can do a little something with it, of course.
Yeah, man, for sure.
That's what we need to do now is hold on to our ancestral Gullah Geechee land. That's a big topic right now. I know a lot of people that's trying to hold on to grandma and granddaddy old house. I enjoy going out in the country, walking around where Papa Joe used to walk, and Mr. Bill and Miss May. That's those are my grandparents and great grandparents. But I get a kick out of walking their lands to know that I can still step where they step and see the things that they have seen, you know, and remember the stories and things that they taught me growing up. So,
you know, that's what's missing too, man.
That's my rant.
But you know what, though, Kemoh? That's so important because that's what's missing when you have these traditional rural-based cultures, and then you have rapid urbanization. People growing up in cities now, they detach from the land. They don't know what it is to, you know what I mean, grow their own food and you know, man their own cows and take care of their own beasts. We don't know. We're so detached from nature, especially as Black American people today. We're so dependent on technology and internet and fast food and microwaves. We're like completely different people than our grandparents were.
Yeah, you know, I got a saying I often say sometimes, you know, we often have this debate like, oh, we are not attached to Africa, ... We became unattached from ourselves in the South because you got to think, some of the farming, fishing, hunting, the methods and the techniques may have changed over time, but that's part of a long lineage that stretches all the way back to Africa.
That's right. That's right.
It is. Because the more I study, the more I see that the men that raised me, I guess you could say my uncles and my grandfathers, they were traditional men. And when you look at them from an African viewpoint, from an African center viewpoint, you can see that they were traditional men, and the culture passed down because the Europeans didn't have this knowledge. It was us who had the knowledge. If it wasn't for us, they wouldn't have been able to survive.
That's right. Fact. Say that.
That's a fact. That's a stone hardcore fact, because you couldn't get this knowledge from books. You had to get it from your granddaddy. You had to get it from your grandmama.
And you know something, Kemoh, even then, the majority of Europeans that were enslaving us were illiterates.
Oh,
The majority of them were drinking more rum than water. They drank more whiskey than water.
Yeah. See, man, you can't learn the culture in the book. You got to live it. Everybody's in the books now, but you got to live it. And then when you live it, you can talk about it.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the point that I'm at now. Now it's all about sharing it with young folk like Dominique, and even you, Chief. You're a young boy yourself.
Yeah, man, for sure. You my way, for sure.
Yeah, we have to preserve and we have to document our stories, because if we don't, because we got to be careful to solely depend on the oral history, because the story can change depending on the person who tells it. But we got to document and we got to record those stories.
See,
yeah, man.
That's why it's good. You got to be right and exact, and you got to have your foot firm on the square.
You got to have sources.
You got to have that. And that's what I learned from them. In future conversations, I got some things to tell y'all about the early days of Good Hope and the different churches, because Good Hope was active during the Civil War years and with the Brush Harbor. So they was putting in work. Yeah, they was putting in work before the Civil War ended, which was when we started to build institutions like the different churches around here. It's a deep history here. It's very deep, and that's what our festival is all about. It's all about reconnecting to your roots. You know,
that's right.
Connecting to Africa, connecting to the diaspora. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, man. Come get the real history. Come get the real knowledge from the people who know. And it's important. I think getting the knowledge in all the different ways, oral history.
There you go.
Studying.
From
the experience too, going out and doing our own experimentation to get some experience in the thing is important, because our work is 7th-generation work.
That's
you
right.
Understand? The work we're doing right now, it took 7 generations of sacrifice for us to be able to do it. And so we got to look 7 more generations in the future and say, okay, how do we want that generation to catch this knowledge and start developing strategies now? So it's not about individuals, it's about institutions. And that's why we're building these institutions. This is why we're beginning to keep our festivals and our remembrance ceremonies and build our Gullah Nation of North America organization, because this is only the beginning.
It's about lineage restoration. It's about lineage restoration, knowing who you are and who your people were before we got here. And then that will help build your self-esteem. Then you can start kicking it out to these young folks around here, because they need some help. These young folks need some help now. They need to know who they are and where they come from.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So on the topic of the Gullahspora, hopefully people out there have got some perspective. There's different ways to look at it. We have different waves of exodus or migration, forced, some voluntary. Just the fact that we as a people, that we can chart and track our lineages as they move around. And even today, we can still see Africanisms within the expressions of our people within the house. Maybe when they leave the home, they code switch, and you ain't never seen them, in the house like we see them, or like you see your own family. But if you really examine your culture, it's about getting back to your roots right now. It's the best way for us to survive politically right now. It's best to focus on ourselves. Learn some herbalism, learn how to take care of ourselves without these pharmaceuticals. They spiking the drugs, y'all. They spiking the drugs. They causing heart attacks and strokes with the same thing they call in medicine, killing our elders early. And so we got to think about what's really happening and get back to our traditional institutions, our midwifery, get back to our root working, get back to our herbalism. These are things that's going to matter about us surviving. And so knowing that you're a Gullah descendant, if you're not from what they call the traditional Lowcountry, you're from New York, you're from Chicago, you're from wherever you're from in the world, and you can trace your roots back to the Gullah Geechee people, you a Gullah, man. You just have
all roads lead down south, man. All roads lead down south.
All roads lead back to the same roots, y'all. We branches of the same tree.
There you go.
I see so many people in these different genealogy groups, when they go back far enough, they usually end up in the South Carolina, Georgia area. So all roads lead down here, and there's guys like us who do the work, who have done the genealogy, who have done the DNA testing. It is up to us to help spread this culture and keep it alive. And it's always going to change.
And even to create the environment, to have the policy and practice of being welcome to receiving those who return is very, very important. Early on, I was just a Gullahspora dude trying to get reconnected to my community, and I got backslapped because the people who I went to didn't have the ideal of there being a Gullahspora. And so it was an issue even within the Gullah community that everyone doesn't have this concept. It's been growing over the years. We've been advocating for it and proving it, that it's a real phenomenon and we have to lighten up and have a policy for it. But, it's a real thing. It's a real thing because those Gullahs that went to Jamaica, they did something there.
That's right.
And that would be our history. That would be Gullahspora history. Those Gullahs that went down to Trinidad and started planting that rice, they did something there. Yeah. Those back and founded Freetown, we did something here.
Chef DJ Dennis, he went down there a few years ago. I think it's called Morega rice, hill rice, and he connected with the locals on the island, and they did some magic.
And you take somebody like my son. He has roots here in South Carolina. He has roots in the islands. He of course he has the African roots. He's truly a kid of the diaspora. But and we all are. But I mean, his lineage covers the whole spectrum, so to speak. So
he's mixed up. That's good.
It really is, man. He got Trinidadian, he got Barbados, he got Charleston, he got.
That's like my grandfather, my mom's father, his father. So my great grandfather came from the Caribbeans.
Yeah,
you understand? And so I think it was a lot of that going on, especially in the early 1900s. The same way we was going to New York, there was people coming from the Caribbean to take the jobs that we was leaving. And a lot of farmers came from the Caribbean into Florida, into Alabama, into Georgia at that time as well. We one big family. Really, the Gullah Geechee culture and that whole southeast region is really like the mainland Caribbean. It's like the Caribbean mainland.
Yeah.
What's more south in the Caribbean? The quote of B. Rodney.
Yeah, man. Man, I got love for that Ross right there, man.
Yeah, that's my guy. That's my guy. That's my big bro.
Yeah, man. So I know we'll be back in 2 weeks with another one. And yo, this has been a great conversation. I don't know how people, hey, y'all chime in and let us know how y'all like that. You know, this experience. Usually we bring people on, we do interviews with them. We wanted to give more of an educational presentation this go round. And of course, in the future where we have more time available than we have today, we'll get the audience more and more involved. We'll throw the link out there and let you come on in and join the discussion like that at a certain point for Q&A. But for today, I think we're about to conclude. This is a great conversation, and we're going to keep having it. So if you hear us saying Gullahspora, you know what we mean.
There you go.
Understand? You know exactly what we mean. We're going to give you the understanding of it, and we done broke it down to you how we got waves of migration of the same people who found themselves brought into Carolina and Georgia and North Carolina and escaping into Florida during the same period of 1670 to 1770 that we also identify as the ethnogenesis period of the Gullah Geechee people as a whole. People after that would come and join a culture that already existed. People after that will come and have to learn the language in order to be able to communicate. People after that will come into a system that already had Africans living there for 100 years as the majority population. So you got to understand that there was already a Gullah Geechee culture before there was a United States of America. And so everywhere our people was taken to by force or voluntarily after that, that's the Gullahspora. It's historical. We're not making up concepts. This is the real deal. Giving you the real history. So y'all got any last words before we get out of here?
This was a great conversation, guys. I'm excited. We're back. We're gonna share our knowledge. We're gonna do our thing. I hope you all enjoyed this great beginning. Be sure be on the lookout for the festival and everything. We're gonna put that together so you guys come on out and enjoy yourselves, and let's venerate our ancestors.
Ashe. Don?
Restore, remember, and reclaim.
Restore,
reclaim.
Remember,
Restoration part comes from either you, Mansa, or Gas, but reclaim and remember. Leave no stone on.
Yeah, man, for sure. So, thank y'all for your time. Appreciate the audience out there, man. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with another banger, as always. Y'all have a good one out there.
Jag minns ju den tid du gav mig life-bilder, yo. Nu vill jag kunna ge tillbaka allt jag inte kunnat ge förut. Det finns ingen annan där som kan stå här by my side, oh why. Sättet du rör på det får mig att dö för dig, baby. För de här yardis, de vill ju bara dra ner oss. Men du är fett och vanlig. Och det jag lägger är min tid, jag vill ha dig. Du får mig känna safety.